The fluorescent lights in Chicago Memorial's ICU had a specific kind of cruelty. They hummed with a frequency that burrowed into your skull after the 10th consecutive hour, casting everything in a pale, sickly glow that made even healthy people look half dead. I'd been staring at those lights for the past 14 hours, and they were starting to win. My back screamed from lifting Mrs. Chen in room 304, my feet throbbed in shoes that were 2 years past retirement, and my stomach had given up on food somewhere around hour 9. The energy bar I'd shoved in my mouth during a bathroom break sat like concrete in my gut. But it was fuel, and fuel was all that mattered when you were pulling a double shift on 3 hours of sleep. Riley, you're still here? Marcus, the night shift supervisor, appeared beside me at the nurse's station. He looked at the clock, 11:47 p.m., and then at my face. Your shift ended at 7. Covering for Denise. Her kid's sick. I didn't look up from the chart I was updating. Mr. Patterson in 309, stable but declining. The words felt prophetic lately. Weren't we all stable but declining? That's the third double this week. Rent's due Friday. I said it matter-of-factly, like it explained everything. It did. Marcus opened his mouth to say something, probably something about union rules or burnout or taking care of myself, but the admission alarm cut him off. Ambulance incoming. Trauma. ETA, 2 minutes. The concrete in my stomach turned to lead. CTA number 1. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Trauma meant chaos. It meant blood and adrenaline and split-second decisions that could save lives or haunt you forever. It meant I wouldn't be going home anytime soon. I was already moving toward the trauma bay when the doors burst open. 2 paramedics wheeled in a gurney at near running speed, their faces grim. Male, approximately 70 years old, gunshot wound to the abdomen. The lead paramedic rattled off. BP dropping. Pulse thready. We've got maybe minutes before he crashes. Gunshot wound. Of course. This was Chicago. This was Tuesday. I'd seen dozens of GSWs in my 4 years at Memorial. Gang violence, domestic disputes, random tragedies. I'd learned to compartmentalize, to see the wound instead of the person, the vital signs instead of the life hanging in the balance. It was the only way to survive this job. But then I looked at the man on the gurney. He was elderly, distinguished, even covered in blood. Silver hair, expensive watch still on his wrist despite the chaos. His eyes were open, clouded with pain and confusion, and he was murmuring something in Italian. His hand reached out, grasping at air. Mio figlio, he whispered. Dove mio figlio? My Italian was limited to medical terminology I'd picked up from working in a diverse hospital, but I understood enough. My son. Where is my son? Sir, we're going to help you, I said, moving to his side. Can you tell me your name? His eyes found mine, desperate and fading. Vittorio, he managed. Vittorio. Dante. Dr. Morrison appeared, already in trauma mode. She examined the wound with practiced efficiency, her face darkening. We need surgery. Now. This bleeder won't wait. Prep Ward 2. Marcus called out. Wait. Dr. Morrison looked up, and I saw something in her expression that made my blood run cold. His insurance was declined. No authorization code. Administration flagged it. The words hung in the sterile air like a death sentence. What? I stared at her. He's dying. I know that, Riley, but without insurance clearance or upfront payment, the hospital won't authorize emergency surgery. It's a new policy. Administration's orders. She looked disgusted, but resigned. We stabilize him and transfer to county. County General was 45 minutes away. This man had maybe 20. That's insane, I said, my voice rising. He'll die before he gets there. I know. Dr. Morrison's jaw clenched. But my hands are tied. The surgery alone is $80,000. Without payment. How much to keep him alive? I interrupted. Right now. What's the absolute minimum? She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Riley, you can't. How much? $15,000 for emergency stabilization surgery. That buys him time to arrange proper financing or transfer. She shook her head. But that's still... I was already pulling out my phone, opening my banking app with shaking fingers. My savings account stared back at me. $16,342. 4 years of scraped-together tips. Overtime pay. Every penny I could spare from my pathetic salary. Money I'd been saving for nursing school tuition. Money that represented a future beyond this exhausting present. Vittorio gasped on the gurney, his hand clutching his stomach. Blood seeped through the gauze. I thought about my apartment with its broken heater and overdue electric bill. I thought about the acceptance letter from Northwestern's nursing program sitting on my kitchen table, the one that required a $10,000 deposit by next month. I thought about my little brother Danny, 14 years old and counting on me to be his legal guardian since Mom died 2 years ago. Then I looked at Vittorio's desperate eyes. Process it to my account, I said, entering my information into the hospital's payment system. $15,000, do the surgery. Riley, Marcus started. Do it. Dr. Morrison looked at me for a long moment, something like respect flickering across her features. Then she nodded. Prep him. We're going in. The next 3 hours blurred together. I assisted with the surgery, my hands steady even as my mind screamed about what I'd just done. Dr. Morrison worked with fierce precision, repairing the damage, stopping the bleeding. Against all odds, Vittorio's vitals stabilized. He'll make it, Dr. Morrison said as we closed. You saved his life, Riley. I nodded numbly, too exhausted to process what that meant. It was nearly 4 a.m. when I finally stumbled out of the hospital. The November air hit me like a physical blow, cold and sharp. I pulled my thin jacket tighter and started walking toward the bus stop. My phone showed a balance of $1,342. Rent was $900. Danny needed new shoes. The electric bill was overdue. And Northwestern? Northwestern was gone. That dream had just died in an operating room. I should have felt regret. Should have been angry at myself for making such an impulsive, financially devastating decision. But all I felt was tired. Bone deep, soul-crushing tired. The bus was late, as always. I stood at the stop, watching the sun start to rise over the Chicago skyline, and wondered if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. I had no idea that across the city, in a penthouse that overlooked the lake, a very different kind of storm was brewing. Luca Dante didn't panic. Panic was weakness, and weakness got you killed in his world. But standing in his father's empty bedroom at 4:30 in the morning, looking at the blood-soaked sheets and the open window, he came as close to panic as he'd been in 15 years. How long? He asked, his voice deadly calm. Marco, his head of security, looked like he wanted to disappear. We think 3 hours. The night nurse noticed he was gone around 1:30. We've been searching 3 hours. Luca turned, and Marco actually stepped back. My father, who can barely walk without assistance, who has late-stage heart disease, disappeared from a secure floor of this building for 3 hours. And I'm just now hearing about it? Boss, we thought he was in the bathroom. Then we thought maybe the library. Stop talking. Luca pulled out his phone, dialing a number he'd memorized but prayed he'd never need to use. Antonio, I need every resource. My father is missing. 70 years old, health compromised, potentially confused. Last seen here around 1 a.m. He hung up and turned back to Marco. Who was on duty? Vincent and Joey. They swear they did regular checks. Where are they now? Waiting in your office. Good, I'll deal with them later. Luca's phone buzzed. He answered immediately. What? Boss, we got something. Antonio's voice was tight. Police scanner. Elderly male. Gunshot wound. Brought to Chicago Memorial 2 hours ago. No ID, but the description matches. Gunshot wound. Luca's blood turned to ice. I'm on my way. And Antonio? Find out who shot him. I want names, addresses, and a detailed explanation before sunrise. Already on it, boss. The drive to Chicago Memorial took 12 minutes. It should have taken 20, but traffic laws meant nothing when your father was dying. Luca's mind raced through scenarios. Rivals? Unlikely. Everyone knew his father was retired, untouchable. A random mugging? Possible but improbable in their neighborhood. A message to Luca himself? That seemed most likely, which meant he had a war to plan. He arrived at the hospital with 6 of his men, all armed, all ready. The night receptionist took one look at them and reached for the security button. Don't, Luca said quietly. He placed a business card on her desk. Vittorio Dante. He was brought in earlier tonight. Where is he? Her hand hovered over the button. I need to see ID. Where is my father? Each word was precisely articulated, carrying weight that had nothing to do with volume. She swallowed hard. ICU, 3rd floor, but visiting hours. He was already moving. The ICU nurse station was quiet, staffed by a tired-looking woman in her 50s. She looked up as Luca and his entourage approached, her expression shifting from surprise to concern to professional neutrality in rapid succession. I'm here for Vittorio Dante, Luca said. She checked her computer and he saw recognition flash across her face. Are you family? I'm his son. She studied him for a moment, probably weighing whether to call security. Then she nodded. Room 312. But Mr. Dante, there's something you should know. Is he alive? Yes. Stable, actually. The surgery went well. Surgery? Luca's focus sharpened. What surgery? Who authorized it? The nurse looked uncomfortable. The emergency abdominal surgery, to repair the gunshot wound. One of our nurses. She covered the cost. Luca stared at her. Explain that sentence. Every word. She pulled up a file. Your father came in without identification or insurance information. Hospital policy requires upfront payment for non-emergency procedures. The attending physician determined that full surgery was necessary but couldn't get authorization. One of our nurses, Riley Monroe, used her personal funds to cover the emergency portion. $15,000. She saved his life. $15,000. A nurse's salary. Used to save a stranger. Where is this nurse? Luca asked. She left about an hour ago. End of her shift. The nurse pulled out a tablet showing him the payment record. Here's her information. But Mr. Dante, she did this out of kindness. Please don't. I won't harm her. Luca interrupted, his voice softer than before. I'm going to thank her. He moved toward room 312, his men flanking him. Through the window, he could see his father lying in the hospital bed, pale but breathing. Alive, because of a nurse named Riley Monroe. Luca made 3 phone calls in rapid succession. First, to his lawyer. I need a complete financial profile. Riley Monroe, nurse at Chicago Memorial. Everything. Bank accounts, debts, family, history. I want it in 2 hours. Second, to Antonio. Hospital security footage. I want to see exactly what happened tonight. Every camera angle. Third, to his accountant. Wire $15,000 to this account immediately. He read off Riley's information, then set up a trust. Anonymous. $100,000. I'll send details. Marco appeared at his elbow. Boss, about who shot him. Later. Luca was still staring through the window at his father. First, I need to understand why a struggling nurse just gave up her life savings for a man she'd never met. He didn't know yet that understanding Riley Monroe would change everything. He didn't know that the exhausted nurse who'd saved his father was about to become the most important person in his world. He only knew that someone had shown his father mercy when the world had shown him a bullet, and Luca Dante always paid his debts. I woke up to pounding on my apartment door at 9 in the morning, which meant I'd gotten exactly 3 hours of sleep. My body felt like it had been hit by a truck. My mind was foggy, and for a disorienting moment, I thought I was back at the hospital, that the pounding was a code blue alarm. Then I remembered. The surgery, the $15,000, the financial catastrophe I'd voluntarily walked into. The pounding continued, more insistent now. Riley Monroe? A male voice, deep and authoritative. We need to speak with you. My heart started racing. Debt collectors worked fast, but not this fast. The hospital wouldn't have reported the payment yet. So who? I stumbled to the door, still in my scrubs from last night, and peered through the peephole. 2 men in dark suits stood in the hallway. Not hospital administration, not debt collectors. They looked like security, or worse. Who are you? I called through the door. My name is Marco Giordano. I work for Luca Dante. His father, Vittorio, is the man you saved last night. Mr. Dante would like to speak with you. Dante. The name tickled something in my memory, something I'd heard whispered in the ICU among the cops who'd brought Vittorio in, but I was too exhausted to place it. I'm sleeping, I said. Come back later. Ms. Monroe, Mr. Dante is waiting downstairs in his car. He's a very busy man. It would be better for everyone if you came down now. There was something in his tone, not threatening exactly, but suggesting that better for everyone included me specifically. I thought about ignoring him, going back to bed, pretending this wasn't happening, but curiosity won out over exhaustion. Give me 5 minutes, I said. I threw on jeans and a sweatshirt, splashed water on my face, and pulled my hair into a ponytail. My reflection in the mirror looked like death. Dark circles under my eyes, skin pale from too many hours under fluorescent lights, the kind of exhausted that went bone deep. But vanity seemed pointless when I was about to meet the family of a gunshot victim. The 2 men were still waiting when I opened the door. They flanked me as we walked to the elevator, not touching but present in a way that made it clear leaving wasn't an option I'd been given. Is Vittorio okay? I asked, as we descended. Did something happen? He's stable, Marco said. Mr. Dante wanted to thank you personally. We exited into the weak November sunlight, and I saw it immediately. A black SUV that probably cost more than my annual salary, parked in front of my building with the kind of confidence that said parking laws were suggestions. The back window was tinted, but as we approached, the door opened. Ms. Monroe, a voice said from inside. Please, join me. I hesitated. Every instinct I'd developed growing up on the South Side was screaming at me not to get in that car. But I'd just spent $15,000 I didn't have to save this man's father. The least I deserved was an explanation. I climbed in. The interior was leather and luxury, the kind of space that existed in a different economic reality than mine, and sitting across from me was a man who matched the car perfectly. Luca Dante was younger than I'd expected, maybe late 30s, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my rent, and his dark eyes studied me with an intensity that made me want to squirm. But I'd learned long ago not to show weakness to intimidating men. Mr. Dante, I said, keeping my voice level. Your father is alive because of you, he interrupted. His voice was controlled, each word measured. The hospital called me at 4 this morning. They told me what you did. I'm a nurse. It's my job to save lives. It's not your job to bankrupt yourself doing it. He leaned forward slightly. $15,000. That's not a small amount for someone in your position. How do you know my position? I asked, tension creeping into my shoulders. I know many things, Ms. Monroe. I know you work 60-hour weeks at Chicago Memorial. I know you're 28 years old, single, supporting a younger brother. I know you were accepted to Northwestern's graduate nursing program and that the deposit was due next month. He paused. I know that the $15,000 you spent last night was your entire savings. My blood ran cold. You investigated me. I needed to understand who would do what you did, and why. The why is simple. Your father was dying. I had the means to help. That's all. I crossed my arms, suddenly feeling very exposed. If you brought me here to thank me, consider it done. I need to go. I have a shift in 6 hours. You're angry, he observed. I'm tired, and I don't appreciate being investigated like a criminal because I saved someone's life. CTA number 2. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Something flickered across his face. Amusement, maybe, or respect. You're right, I apologize for the intrusion, but Ms. Monroe, I need you to understand something. My father was shot last night, deliberately, by people who wanted him dead. The fact that he survived is problematic for them, which means they'll try again. The implications of that statement settled over me like ice water. You're saying he's still in danger. I'm saying everyone connected to him is in danger, including the nurse who paid for his surgery, including you. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. That's insane. Nobody knows I paid for it except hospital administration and your people. My people are loyal. Hospital administration has 47 employees with access to that information. 47 potential leaks. In my experience, Ms. Monroe, secrets don't stay secret for long. I stared at him, trying to process this. So what are you saying? That I'm in danger because I was a good Samaritan? I'm saying that my world is complicated and violent, and whether you intended to or not, you've become part of it. He pulled out a phone, typed something, and showed me the screen. This is your bank account balance as of 20 minutes ago. I looked at the number and my heart stopped. $16,342, the exact amount I'd had yesterday. You can't just... I started. I can. And I did. The money you spent is returned. But Ms. Monroe, money doesn't solve the larger problem. You saved the life of Vittorio Dante. In my world, that creates a debt. And I always pay my debts. I don't want anything from you. I'm not offering what you want. I'm offering what you need. He leaned back, studying me. Protection. For you and your brother. A place to stay until we eliminate the threat. Security that ensures you don't become collateral damage in a war you didn't know existed. I have an apartment. I have a job. I don't need... Your apartment has locks that can be picked in 30 seconds. Your fire escape is accessible from the alley. You work night shifts that end at 3 a.m., and you walk to the bus stop alone through neighborhoods where women disappear. His voice was calm, factual. I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm giving you information you need to make an informed decision. The decision to what? Move into your house? Become your charity case? The decision to stay alive. He said it simply, without drama. Ms. Monroe, Riley, I understand your reluctance. You're independent, proud, used to handling things yourself. But this situation is beyond your control. My father's enemies don't care that you're innocent. They care that you're associated with him. And in approximately 48 hours, when they realize he's alive and recovering, they'll start looking for vulnerabilities. You're a vulnerability. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was being paranoid, that this was Chicago, and violence was random, that I'd be fine. But I'd grown up in this city. I knew what happened to people who ended up on the wrong side of the wrong people. What exactly are you proposing? I asked carefully. There's a property in Lincoln Park. Secure, comfortable, fully furnished. You and your brother would stay there temporarily. 2 weeks, maybe a month, until we neutralize the threat. You'd continue working your normal schedule. I'd provide transportation and security. In exchange, you'd agree to check on my father during his recovery. Not as a nurse, we have medical staff, but as the person who saved his life. He's been asking about you. He doesn't even know my name. He knows you gave everything to help him. That matters to my father. It matters to me. I looked out the tinted window at my apartment building, at the cracked sidewalk and the rusted fire escape, and the broken security camera that had been broken for 6 months. I thought about Danny, 14 and skinny, walking home from school through neighborhoods that got worse every year. I need to talk to my brother, I said finally. Of course. But Riley. He waited until I looked at him. Don't take too long deciding. The people who want my father dead don't operate on convenient schedules. Danny was eating cereal at our tiny kitchen table when I got back, his math homework spread out between the bowls. He looked up when I entered, taking in my expression with the too perceptive eyes of a kid who'd learned early to read adult moods. You look weird, he said. Weirder than usual after a double shift. We need to talk. I sat down across from him. Something happened at work last night. I told him everything. The surgery, the money, the investigation, Luca Dante and his offer of protection. Danny listened without interrupting, his cereal getting soggy, his expression shifting from concern to disbelief to something that looked almost like excitement. So, you're saying we might have to stay in a mansion in Lincoln Park because you saved some mafia boss's dad? He said when I finished. I didn't say mafia boss. You didn't have to, Luca Dante? Riley, even I've heard of him. There was a whole thing on Reddit about whether he's connected to the outfit. He leaned forward. This is insane. You're actually considering this? I'm considering keeping you safe. By moving into a gangster's house? By accepting temporary protection in a secure location while dangerous people decide whether we're a problem. I rub my face. Danny, I don't know what the right choice is, but I know our apartment isn't safe, and I know that if something happened to you because I tried to save someone's life. He was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming on the table the way they did when he was thinking hard. What does your gut say? My gut says this is crazy. Yeah, but your gut also told you to spend 15 grand on a stranger. How'd that work out? I'm still deciding. He grinned, that quick flash of humor that reminded me he was still a kid despite everything he'd been through. We should do it. Not forever, just until things calm down. I mean, Lincoln Park Rye. That's like actual rich people neighborhood. My school would be closer. I could maybe take the train instead of that sketchy bus. This isn't a vacation, Danny. I know, but it's also not prison. And you said we'd still do everything normal, just from a different address. He pushed his soggy cereal away. I trust you. If you think this is what keeps us safe, then I'm in. I looked at my little brother. Not so little anymore, almost as tall as me, trying to grow up too fast because circumstances demanded it. I thought about Mom, dying in this apartment 2 years ago, making me promise to keep Danny safe no matter what. Okay, I said. But Danny, there are rules. We don't talk about this at school. We don't tell anyone where we're staying. We keep our heads down and we're polite to everyone, but we don't forget this is temporary. We're not part of their world. We're just visiting. Got it. I'll pack. He was already standing, heading to his room. Danny, I called after him. Yeah? If anything feels wrong, if you're uncomfortable or scared or you just want to leave, you tell me immediately. Deal? Deal. He paused in the doorway. Riley, you did a good thing. Saving that guy. Don't let all this other stuff make you regret it. After he disappeared into his room, I sat at the kitchen table and called the number Luca Dante had given me. He answered on the first ring. We'll do it, I said. Temporarily, with conditions. Name them. First, this arrangement ends the moment the threat is neutralized, not 1 day longer. Second, Danny's safety is non-negotiable. If anything happens that puts him at risk, we leave immediately. No arguments. Third, I need complete transparency about what's happening. No protecting me from information I need to keep us safe. There was a pause. Then, agreed. All 3 conditions. I'll have Marco and his team at your apartment in 2 hours to help you pack and escort you to the property. Is that enough time? It'll have to be. Riley? His voice softened slightly. Thank you for trusting me with this. I'm not trusting you, I said honestly. I'm making a calculated risk assessment and hoping I'm right. There's a difference. Fair enough. I could hear the slight smile in his voice. I'll take calculated risk over blind trust any day. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet apartment, listening to Danny pack in the other room, and wondered if I'd just made the best or worst decision of my life. 2 hours later, Marco arrived with 3 other men and a moving truck I hadn't expected. They were efficient, professional, packing our meager belongings with care that seemed incongruous with their intimidating presence. The drive to Lincoln Park was surreal. Danny pressed his face to the window, watching the neighborhood transform from our working-class area to tree-lined streets with actual houses. The property Luca had mentioned turned out to be a townhouse, beautiful, modern, with a small garden and security that wasn't immediately obvious but definitely present. This is temporary, I reminded Danny as we walked inside. But even I had to admit, as I explored the space, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen with appliances that actually worked, that temporary had never looked so appealing. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Welcome home. My father is awake and asking for you. Come by the hospital tomorrow when you're settled. And Riley, thank you for trusting me. I won't let you regret it. L. I looked around the townhouse, at Danny already claiming the bedroom with the best view, at the security camera I'd spotted by the front door, at the life we were stepping into that I didn't fully understand. I'd saved a man's life. Now I just had to make sure that decision didn't cost us ours. The first week in the Lincoln Park townhouse felt like living in someone else's life. Everything worked. The heat came on when you adjusted the thermostat. The refrigerator was stocked with actual food, not just ramen and generic cereal, but fresh vegetables, good cheese, bread that didn't come pre-sliced in plastic. Danny's commute to school went from 45 minutes on 2 buses to 15 minutes on the train. I still worked my shifts at Chicago Memorial, but now a car picked me up and dropped me off. Driven by a quiet man named Vincent who never asked questions and always had the radio on a classical station. It was comfortable, almost normal. That should have been my first warning. I visited Vittorio on my second day off, mostly because Luca had texted me 3 times asking when I'd come by, and I was starting to feel guilty. The private room where they'd moved him looked more like a hotel suite than a hospital. Flowers on every surface, a view of the lake, furniture that didn't belong in a medical facility. Vittorio was sitting up in bed when I entered, looking significantly better than the last time I'd seen him covered in blood on a gurney. His color was good, his eyes clear, and when he saw me, his entire face lit up. "You," he said in heavily accented English. "The angel. My Luca, he tell me what you do." "I'm Riley," I said, approaching the bed. "I'm not an angel, just a nurse who is in the right place at the right time." No. No. He reached out, taking my hand with surprising strength. You give everything. For stranger. For old man you never meet. My son, he say you use all your money. Why you do this? I thought about how to answer that. Because you needed help. And I could help. That's enough reason. He studied me for a long moment, his dark eyes, so similar to Luca's, seeing more than I was comfortable with. You have good heart. Pure. Not many people like this anymore. He squeezed my hand. My Luca, he is good man too. But his world, it make him hard. He forget that kindness exist. You remind him. Mr. Dante. Vittorio, please. You save my life. You call me Vittorio. He smiled, but there was sadness in it. I am old man. Sick for long time. Heart no. Good. The shooting, it was message for my son. They think killing old man will hurt him, make him weak. Who's they? I asked, then immediately regretted it. I'm sorry, that's none of my business. You are in danger because you help me. Is your business now? He sighed, settling back against his pillows. My family, we are in difficult business. Import, export, yes, but also other things. Luca, he take over when I get sick. He is strong, smart, but this make him enemies. Rival families. They want what we have. They think my death will start war. Make Luca make mistakes. But you didn't die. Because of you. He patted my hand. You change everything. You save me, yes. But also you save my son from darkness that come from losing father. He is grateful. More than grateful. I see how he talk about you. I felt my cheeks warm. He barely knows me. He know you are brave. He know you are kind. He know you put other people before yourself. Vittorio's eyes twinkled. In his world, this is rare. Very rare. You are like, how you say, fresh water in desert. Before I could respond, the door opened and Luca walked in. He was wearing another expensive suit, this one navy, and he carried himself with that same controlled authority I'd noticed before. But when he saw his father holding my hand, something softened in his expression. Papa, he said, moving to the other side of the bed. You're supposed to be resting, not charming the nurses. This one is special, Vittorio said. Not like the other nurses. This one, she has fire inside. You be careful, Luca. Fire can burn. Luca's eyes met mine across the bed. I'm aware. I should go, I said, gently extracting my hand from Vittorio's. Let you rest. You come back soon, yes? Vittorio asked. I like talking to you. You make me remember there is still good in the world. I'll come back, I promised. Luca followed me out of the room, closing the door behind us. Thank you for visiting. He's been asking about you constantly. He seems to be recovering well. Physically, yes. But, Ms. Monroe, Riley, we need to talk. Not here. Can you come to my office tomorrow? There's been a development. The way he said development made my stomach drop. What kind of development? The kind we shouldn't discuss in a hospital hallway. He glanced around, noting the security cameras, the passing orderlies. Please, it's important. I agreed, mostly because the intensity in his eyes told me this wasn't optional. Luca's office was in a high-rise downtown, the kind of building where everything was glass and steel and money. His floor took up the entire top level, and his secretary, a severe-looking woman named Claudia, ushered me into his private office without a word. The space was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and furniture that screamed power. But what caught my attention were the men already in the room. Marco, who I'd met at my apartment. Two others I didn't recognize, both wearing the same dark suits and carefully blank expressions. Riley, thank you for coming. Luca gestured to a chair. This is Antonio and Matteo. They handle security for the family. I sat, feeling increasingly like I'd walked into something much bigger than a simple thank you meeting. You said there was a development. The people who shot my father have been identified, Lucas said, without preamble. The Kozlov organization, Russian, based on the north side, trying to expand into our territory. They've claimed responsibility and made it clear they're not finished. Okay, I said slowly. What does that have to do with me? Antonio pulled out a tablet, showing me a series of photographs. These were taken 2 days ago outside Chicago Memorial, and yesterday, near your apartment building. The photos showed a man in a dark jacket watching, waiting. In one image, he was clearly photographing the hospital entrance. In another, he was standing across from my old building. Who is he? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Alexei Volkov, one of Kozlov's lieutenants. Luka's voice was carefully controlled. He's been conducting surveillance. On you. My mouth went dry. Why me? Because they know you saved my father, because they think you matter to me, and because, in their world, leverage is everything. He leaned forward. Riley, they're not just watching. We intercepted communications this morning. They're planning to take you. Use you to force my hand in territorial negotiations. The room spun slightly. That's insane. I'm nobody. I'm just a nurse who... Who saved Vittorio Dante's life? Luca interrupted. Who's been visiting him in the hospital? Who's living in a property I own? To them, that makes you important. To them, that makes you a target. I stood up, pacing to the window, trying to process this. So what do we do? Increase security? I move again? We eliminate the threat, Luca said simply. I turned to look at him. What does that mean? It means I'm handling the Kozlov situation permanently. But it takes time, and time is something we don't have. They're moving fast. He stood, walking over to me. Which is why I'm asking you to do something that's going to sound extreme. More extreme than hiding in a townhouse? Move into my home, the family estate. It's the most secure property in Chicago. 24-hour security, reinforced structure, controlled access. My father is being discharged tomorrow and moving back there. You could continue your visits with him, but from inside the safest location I can provide. You want me to move into your house. I said it flatly, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. The estate has a separate guest wing. You and Danny would have complete privacy. Your own entrance, your own space. But you'd be protected. Actually protected. Not just monitored. For how long? 2 weeks. Maybe 3. However long it takes to resolve the Kozlov situation. He paused. I know this is asking a lot. I know you value your independence. But Riley, these people don't make empty threats. If they take you, they'll use you to hurt my father, to hurt me. And when they're done using you... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I thought about Danny, 14 years old, just starting to relax in the Lincoln Park house. I thought about my shifts at the hospital, the life I'd built, the independence I'd fought so hard to maintain. I thought about getting dragged into a world I didn't understand because I'd made one compassionate decision. I need to talk to Danny, I said. Of course. But Riley? He waited until I looked at him. I'm not going to let them hurt you, either of you. That's not negotiable for me. You saved my father's life. That creates a bond in my world, a responsibility. I protect what's mine. I'm not yours, I said quietly. No, he agreed. But you're under my protection now, whether you want to be or not. Danny took the news better than I expected. So we're basically in witness protection, he said, sitting on his bed in the townhouse. Except instead of the FBI, it's the mob. Danny, I'm not complaining. This is literally the most interesting thing that's ever happened to us. He paused. Although, are we sure we can trust this guy? Like, really trust him? I don't know, I admitted, but I trust that he's serious about the threat. And I trust that he has the resources to keep us safe. And you like him? I blinked. What? Come on, Riley. I saw how you looked when you talked about him visiting his dad. The way you say his name. You like him. He's my protector, or employer, or whatever he is. It's complicated. Uh-huh. Danny grinned. Just remember, if you marry into the Mafia, I get to be the cool uncle who knows stuff. Nobody's marrying anyone, I said firmly. We're surviving a temporary crisis and then going back to our normal lives. But even as I said it, I wondered if normal was something we'd ever get back to. The Dante estate was not what I expected. I'd been picturing something ostentatious, marble columns and gold fixtures and the kind of wealth that screamed for attention. Instead, it was elegant and understated, a sprawling property in Forest Glen with gardens and security that was present but not obvious. Luca met us at the entrance, and I noticed he looked tired. Not physically exhausted like after a long shift, but worn down in a way that suggested he was carrying weight he couldn't put down. "Welcome," he said. "Let me show you to your wing." The guest wing was essentially a small apartment, 2 bedrooms, a living area, kitchenette, bathroom. Everything we needed to be self-sufficient. Danny immediately claimed the bedroom with the window seat, and I could hear him unpacking before Luca and I had even left the living room. "My father is in the East Wing," Luca explained. "He is still recovering but stable. He'd love to see you whenever you're settled." No pressure, no schedule, just when you're ready. "Thank you," I said, "for all of this. I know it's disruptive to your life too. My life is already disrupted. Having you here makes it better, not worse." He said it matter-of-factly, but there was something underneath the words, something warm. "Luca," I started, but my phone rang. "Chicago Memorial," I answered immediately. "Riley, it's Marcus. We've got a situation. Mass casualty incident at the convention center. All hands on deck. Can you come in?" I looked at Luca, who was already pulling out his own phone. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, I told Marcus. "I'll drive you," Luca said. "And Riley, I'm coming inside with you. You can't. They're watching the hospital. You know they are. I'm not letting you walk in there alone." He was right. I hated that he was right. "Fine. But you stay in the background." "Always do." The drive to the hospital was tense and silent. When we arrived, the emergency bay was already chaos. Ambulances, patients, staff running between rooms. I jumped out before the car fully stopped, my training kicking in immediately. "Riley," Dr. Morrison called. "Trauma 2, GSW to the chest. We need—" She stopped mid-sentence, staring past me. I turned to see Luca standing just inside the entrance, Marco and 2 other security personnel flanking him. He looked out of place in his expensive suit among the blood and chaos, but he also looked completely unbothered. "He's with me," I told Dr. Morrison. "Ignore him." For the next 4 hours, I lost myself in the work. Patients came and went, some stable, some critical. One who didn't make it despite our best efforts. I sutured wounds, administered medications, held hands, and gave bad news. The things I'd trained for. The things that made sense. During a brief lull around midnight, I found Luca exactly where he'd been when I'd last seen him, standing against the wall near the nurses' station, watching everything, his security maintaining a perimeter. "You can go," I told him. "I'll be here for hours still." "I'm aware. I'm staying." "Luca, this is ridiculous. You can't just stand in a hospital hallway all night. Watch me." A nurse I didn't recognize approached us nervously. Excuse me, sir, but you can't have armed guards in the hospital. It's against policy. Luca looked at her, and she actually took a step back. My guards are licensed, legal, and not bothering anyone. They stay. I'll have to call security. Call whoever you need to call. He pulled out his phone, typed something. While you're at it, you might want to check with administration about the donation that just cleared. $500,000 to the trauma unit. I imagine they'll be very interested in ensuring I'm comfortable. The nurse's eyes widened. She scurried away. I stared at him. Did you just buy your way into staying here? I made a charitable donation to a hospital in need. The timing was coincidental. He almost smiled. Go back to work, Riley. I'll be here when you're done. At 3 a.m., I finally clocked out. My feet ached, my back screamed, and I was fairly certain I had someone else's blood on my scrubs despite changing them twice. Luca was exactly where I'd left him, though he'd acquired a coffee at some point. Ready? He asked. How are you not exhausted? I am. But exhaustion doesn't matter when the alternative is you being vulnerable. In the car, I leaned my head back and closed my eyes. This is my life. These hours. This work. If you're going to protect me, you need to understand that I'm not giving it up. I don't want you to give it up. I want you to be safe while you do it. He paused. You're good at this. I watched you tonight. The way you talked to that kid with the broken arm made him laugh while you said it. The way you held that woman's hand when we lost her husband. You're not just competent, Riley. You're compassionate. In a world like mine, that's rare. I opened my eyes, looking at him in the dim interior of the car. Your father said something similar. He's wise. And he's right. Luca's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The Kozlov situation escalates tomorrow. We have a meeting. There will be consequences. Consequences, I repeated. You mean violence. I mean resolution. One way or another, this ends. He glanced at me. I wanted you to know, because when it's over, you'll have a choice to make. What choice? Whether you want to go back to your life, or whether you want to explore what's happening between us. My breath caught. Luca, I know it's complicated. I know I'm not what you planned for. But Riley, I haven't stopped thinking about you since the moment I learned what you did for my father. You walked into my world by accident, but you fit here in a way that terrifies me. And after tomorrow, after this threat is eliminated, I want the chance to see if this is real or if it's just adrenaline and proximity. And if I say no, then I thank you for everything you've done, ensure you and Danny are set up safely wherever you want to be, and I walk away. No strings, no obligations. Your choice, completely. We pulled up to the estate. I should have gone straight to my wing, should have avoided this conversation until I had time to think. But instead, I turned to him. What if it is real? I asked quietly. What if I feel it too? Your world is dangerous, Luca. Your father was shot because of it. I was targeted because of it. How do I know that choosing you doesn't mean choosing a lifetime of looking over my shoulder? You don't, he said honestly. I can't promise you safety. I can't promise you normal. All I can promise is honesty, protection, and a man who sees you as an equal partner, not a liability to manage. But Riley, you need to understand. Tomorrow changes everything. What I have to do to end the Kozlov threat. It's not going to be clean. It's not going to be legal. And once you know what I'm capable of, you might not want anything to do with me. Then tell me now. What are you planning? He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, War. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Luca's words. War, resolution, consequences. Around 5 a.m., I gave up and went to check on Vittorio. I found him awake in his room, looking out the window at the garden. "Riley," he said warmly, "you cannot sleep either. Too much on my mind." "My son? He tell you about tomorrow?" I nodded. Vittorio sighed. "He is good man. But this life, it require hard choices. When I was young, I make same choices. Now I am old and I see the cost." He turned to look at me. "You have choice too, Riley. Nobody force you to stay in this world. You saved my life, yes, but that debt is paid. You are free to go." Your son said the same thing. Because he loved you, and because he knows love must be choice, not obligation. Vittorio smiled sadly. "I watch him with you, the way he look at you when you do not see, the way he becomes softer, more human. You are good for him, but he also knows he is not good for you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. What do you think I should do?" "I think you should listen to your heart, but also to your head. Love without wisdom is dangerous, especially in this life." He reached out, taking my hand. "Whatever you choose, Riley, you will always have my gratitude and my blessing, even if you choose to walk away." When I left his room, the sun was rising. I stood in the hallway, feeling the weight of the decision ahead of me, and then I heard it. Shouting. Glass breaking. The unmistakable sound of chaos erupting. Someone had breached the estate. The war had started early. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.